partnerships and collaborations is the topic for the day. These can be very critical when it comes to growth of the startups and also establishing themselves in the respective markets. There are certain reports that shows that the startups that have strategic alignments or partnerships with the bigger companies in their sectors are more attractive to investors. They tend to get funding easily. And 60% of these startups feel that partnerships and collaborations can actually amplify their growth. I open the forum. Before we actually get into the discussion and the depth of it, I give you like 10 seconds or 11 seconds. Just let us know in one line what you do and who you are.
हेलो, नमस्कार. मेरा नाम दुर्लभ है और मैं बरोसी का फार्मर और फाउंडर हूँ. बरोसी पिछले 6 साल से हम भारत में बना रहे हैं. भारत की जितनी भी जो ऑथेंटिसिटी है, जो प्रोडक्ट में होती है, वहाँ की कल्चर में होती है, वहाँ के लोगों में होती है, वो हम अपने ब्रांड के थ्रू आप जैसे कंज्यूमर्स के पास लेके आते हैं. धन्यवाद.
Hi, my name is Anshita. I'm the founder of Fix My Curls. We make curly and wavy hair care brands to help people embrace their natural hair.
Good to know, Dinesh.
Hi, Dinesh. I am the CEO and co-founder at Raptee. Raptee is an electric motorcycle company. We're here to prove that electric motorcycles can be better than petrol ones.
Interesting.
Hi, I'm Ish, co-founder and CTO of InsuranceDekho. We are single stop platform where you can have all your insurance needs addressed, whether it is health, life, any insurance which you can really think of as a part of SME, you can get it from us. It's not only about buying insurances, it's also about at the real moment of truth when you're going to use it. We'll be there to help you with claims and endorsements as well.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ashish Agarwal. I'm the director of Resurgent India Limited. We are basically investment banker and merchant banker. So we are helping startups and corporate in raising funding or the valuations. So that's our business, which we do actually. And we're happy to help you if you need any help. Thank you.
He also wears another hat. He is a co-chair for a startup committee at PhD Chamber. So he also consult and advise a lot of young entrepreneurs and enterprises. Samayesh?
Hi, I'm Samayesh Khanna. I'm the co-founder for Beanly. We're a convenience-based coffee brand.
Interesting. Now can we talk about any anecdote, any story of your journey wherein you think that partnership has really played well in your favor for your business growth, also in terms of your numbers? Anybody can take it up. Samayesh, you want to?
Yeah, I can start. So I think Beanly, when we started back in 2018, I was mentioning this to everybody while we were sitting in the speaker lounge back there. I think collaborations was one of the biggest things that we always focused on, purely because we always felt the category was so small in India that growing it ourselves would be expensive. We had the likes of many other coffee brands who came to us, manufactured with us. We built this category to make freshly brewed coffee easily accessible, and I think doing it with competitors give us some sort of a significant advantage in building this category out a lot cheaper than many other players. If each of us had done it individually, it would have been a lot more expensive for us to do it, and I think the resource sharing that happened primarily through us would have also been very difficult to achieve.
True, I agree. Ish?
I think in multiple businesses have generally seen collaboration helps a lot. I would take an example when I was working with Tencent, when you were looking into collaborating specifically brands as a WeChat overall in China. It's a single shop, and every fan base page, how they're really connecting to the overall user base, turns out to be a very interesting way by which a small startup is able to reach out to a larger base. When I look into collaboration in a travel segment, you have got lots of metas. Ixigo, right? It's a meta in the same category. Collaboration got to a stage where they could really delve deeper into a stage of offering direct ticketing for multiple parts. When I look into insurance, a whole new sect of customers are there which you can tap into because you have a technical stack which you can offer to them. They can use the technical stack to start issuing policies. So it's the way to go.
There can be multiple opportunities and possibilities to actually collaborate within the ecosystem, or even beyond your particular segment or sub-segment you're working or playing in. What were that particular time in your journey, Raptee's journey, wherein you think that collaboration and partnership worked really well?
I think I can I'll talk about this in two ways, right? One, being an OEM, we have a ton of vendors, right? We have close to about 300 tier one suppliers who supply various different components, right? And with what we're doing, where we're literally rewriting the architecture for on how electric two-wheelers work, there's a ton of components that have to be redesigned, re-engineered, and redeveloped, right? So we've gone to the extent where we've actually given away IP to the extent that we went to a vendor, we said, okay, you can have this as long as this specific model is supplied to us in exclusivity. Please use this to kind of cater to your other customers and help us with that economies of scale, right? So that's what we've been doing in the vendor side. On the investor side, we've been very picky on who we actually bring on board. Obviously, whether that's worked well or not is a different question. But who we've actually brought on board comes in not only with money, but also with other portfolio companies who can directly contribute to our requirement.
True. So partnerships and collaborations can vary across the spectrum. It can be with your co-founder, it can be with your investors, it can be with your vendors, partners, sometimes in the case of D2C brands, with influencers, with your B2B players, even with your peer startups in your segment. So partnerships and collaborations can come from any spectrum throughout. Anshita, coming to you, D2C is a particular space which is booming crazily right now, and it is highly competitive, and also more specifically when we go into the sub-segmentation, beauty and personal care is the one which is getting a lot of attraction. How do you analyze and strategize partnerships and collaborations that can work well in your favor, your business growth?
So I feel like for us, in terms of collaborations, we like to do cross-brand collaborations. We'll collaborate with other brands that share a similar target audience or a similar type of consumer, especially if their brand voice or brand personality is just like ours, or it's similar. They could be in a different category, but it still works to our advantage because that same consumer probably uses skincare, they use hair care, they use body care. But at the end of the day, that's your TG. How you get to them doesn't really matter as much as just getting to them. And I think brand to brand collaborations is one of the cheapest ways. The only cost you'll actually have is providing the product.
So actually, brand to brand collaboration is the cheapest way to grow further and expand. Durlabh, tell us your story and how do you actually collaborate with whom?
सो इसको दो हिस्सों में बांट लेते हैं, एक फ्रंट एंड एक बैक एंड, क्योंकि हम प्रोडक्ट कंपनी भी हैं, एक ब्रांड तो है ही हैं, एंड दैट टू मिल्क जहाँ पे सप्लाई चेन एंड कोल्ड चेन बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करते हैं, और हम शुरुआत से ना बूट स्टेप रहे हैं, तो पैसे की कमी हमारे पास हमेशा से रही है. तो उस लिहाज से पार्टनरशिप और कोलैबोरेशन हमारे लिए मतलब हमारे पास चॉइस नहीं है. तो अगर हम बैकएंड में देखते हैं तो किसानों के साथ मिलके दूध का प्रोडक्शन, उसकी कोल्ड चेन, अगर किसी ऑलरेडी अगर हमारे जैसे हम पटौदी में हैं, काफ़ी सारे हमारे नेटवर्क में लोग हैं जिन्होंने ऑलरेडी एक कोल्ड चेन सप्लाई चेन सेटअप किए हुए हैं, उनके साथ हमारा बहुत इनिशियल स्टेज से ही मिल्क को लेके कोलैबोरेशन रहा है. फ्रंट एंड की बात करते हैं तो ब्रांड एंड चैनल ये दो इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करते हैं. ब्रांड जहाँ पे हम लोगों तक अपनी कहानी सुना पाते हैं, तो जैसे वहाँ पे हमारा हमेशा से उद्देश्य रहता है कि सिमिलर टाइप ऑफ ब्रांड, और क्योंकि ये ब्रांड भारत और इंडिया दोनों को ही सेलिब्रेट करता है. भारत और इंडिया कहने का मतलब है कि जो भारत का इंटेलिजेंस है और जो इंडिया का इंटेलिजेंस है और भारत का पैशन है, इन दोनों को ध्यान में ही रखते हुए हम अपने ब्रांड के कोलैबोरेशन करते हैं. कोई फिक्स माई कर्ल जैसा ब्रांड जो इंडिया सेंट्रिक है, उस जनरेशन को केटर करता है, वेराज में हमारे पास एक बहुत ही पैशनेट एक किसान की स्टोरी है. ये बहुत ही अमेजिंग सी का हमें लगता है कॉम्बिनेशन है. तो इस तरह से हम थोड़ा सा वो डीपली सोचते हुए इस तरह के कोलैबोरेट करते हैं. चैनल को लेके भी हम काफ़ी अभी रिसेंटली काफ़ी ओपन हुए हैं कि कुछ रिटेल चेन के साथ जहाँ पे हम एक्सक्लूसिवली उनके रिटेल चेन पे पैन इंडिया अवेलेबल हो जाए, तो ये सारी अपॉर्चुनिटीज को हम एक्सप्लोर कर रहे हैं।
So Barosi is a brand which is mostly famous for its ghee, and they are trying to say that they tend to offer you stories and content more in terms of building their brand well. The brand has been bootstrapped, and hence they collaborate more with the farmers, the producers that are in the Bharat of the nation, mostly in the tier 2, tier 3 cities and in the farms. Dinesh, coming to you, tell us what can be the ways, irrespective of the sector or the segment, to actually for any founder to organically reach out to more and more customers. If I would say it, if I can like give it a terminology, zero cost collaboration, how can we look at it? What do you suggest for any founder and young entrepreneur, especially who are early in their journey?
No, sure. See, again, I might not be the perfect person to answer this because we are a pre-revenue company. We're yet to enter production. But one of the ways I was actually having a conversation with Yash, where they sell auto insurance and we're making motorcycles. There's a ton of data being generated at both ends, right? He knows which customer is going to be driving that type of vehicle. I know how this specific customer is going to be driving and what the probability that this person is actually going to get into a crash or not, right? So here again, there are different ways that it's being done currently, but I think we're essentially just scratching. And automotive data is growing big, right? I think it's almost $1 trillion market right now, but I think we're just scratching the surface with data on both sides. It can be completely zero cost where both entities, in whichever way, it doesn't have to be just insurance, right? It can be anything, where we are able to more than just pick more leads, but pick the more relevant leads and then target customers properly.
Can it be phrased in this way? If we listen to our customer better, if we understand their demands or expectations better, we can try to let's say explore more ways or more areas. How can we collaborate? Yeah.
It's a very interesting aspect. Like, it's not just the data in this side. See, from an insurance perspective, right? When you sell a policy, a person really lands up to a hospital, God forbid, and he's really using that particular policy. At that time, typically there's a TPA. Yeah. Now, if you have collaborated with the TPA, when a person is really reaching out there, he's giving his document out there, and which we have done so far. In a way, it's not zero cost, I would say, but yeah, it's a cheap way of getting into creating a mode where you are able to offer a very seamless journey for the customer who's walking into that particular hospital. He's giving that detail to the hospital, highlighting this is my policy. And here we are clearly aware that the person has reached out to the hospital. We have done with the TPA integration. We'd be able to give him a seamless journey when he's going to walk out of the hospital, where he would not have to wait for 5 to 6 hours to really do anything in terms of claiming that particular insurance. And that is where the seamlessness of a product flow creates the difference. That's where I believe the overall journey for an end customer turns out to be a lot more disruptive, and he starts adopting to new platform. And that's as founders, but I really believe most of us really start thinking in terms of how we can innovate these small differences with which we are able to create a stronger product.
Good to know. Samayesh, coming to you, tell us from your entrepreneur's lens, how critical and how difficult is it to maintain a thin line between collaboration, especially in a competitive market? If let's say you are sharing a platform, or let's say you are playing a partnership with your peer startup, how do you evaluate and maintain that thin line of competition between the two?
It's a very interesting question. I think it's we've been on that side of things, being manufacturers as well, wondering where we're going to draw that line for ourselves. But there's no right correct answer to it. The best way to answer this is it's going to be impossible to work, to exist, to coexist, or to exist at all without collaborations. So business is mostly about collaborations, whether you're doing it with peers, competitors, or you're going to do it with someone who's not linked to your business at all. You're never going to be able to operate in a silo. collaborations are going to be very important, and there are going to be downsides to it. I'm sure we've built a few competitors down the line, but this market also opens up and develops a lot in a much cheaper way thanks to so many other players operating. The operating principle for each of us remains the same. If the consumer doesn't get educated, if the consumer doesn't see it often enough, we still predominantly remain a tea drinking nation. I'm talking very specifically to my category, and we predominantly still remain a tea drinking nation. This happened in Japan also in the early 90s. Japan was predominantly a tea drinking nation before today becoming one of the world's largest coffee consumers. That's a story for another time, but collaborations were a big part of Japan becoming one of the world's largest coffee drinking nations today.
But would you agree it's difficult to maintain that thin line between collaboration and competition?
It's a thin line, but I think it's difficult to maintain that thin line. It's also very difficult to operate in a silo. So I don't think it's.
Agree. We'll come back to you. Sure.
तो कुछ 2 लाइन हम जोड़ना चाहेंगे. मेरे को लगता है कि यहाँ पे कोई भी जब पार्टनरशिप और या कोई भी कोलैब होता है तो आई थिंक इनसिक्योरिटीज के लिए जगह नहीं होनी चाहिए अदरवाइज. और या फिर कई बार ऐसा होता है कि कुछ ब्रांड कहते हैं कि मैं बड़ा हूं, मेरी ऑडियंस ज्यादा है. इससे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट ये है कि दोनों मिलके 2 ब्रांड जब साथ में आते हैं तो किस तरह की अपॉर्चुनिटीज कस्टमर के लिए क्रिएट होती हैं या बिजनेस के लिए क्रिएट होती हैं. ये ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है मेरे को लगता है, क्योंकि अगर इनसिक्योरिटीज को लेके टेबल पे बैठेंगे तो वो कभी हो ही नहीं पाती हैं, जनरली वो फ्लैट हो जाती हैं. तो हमारा एक्सपीरियंस ऐसा रहा है कि आई थिंक बिल्कुल सही बात है कि थोड़ा सा तो आपको विजिल तो रहना पड़ता है क्योंकि कंपटीशन से बात कर रहे हैं. बट आई थिंक उसमें भी फिर भी ये है कि इनसिक्योरिटी के साथ ना होके खुले दिल के साथ सामने बैठे टेबल पे, साथ में अगर आ सकते हैं और एक वैल्यू क्रिएट हो सकती है तो करना चाहिए.
The point he's trying to make is when we go out for collaboration, we should not be insecure when we are talking to our competitors. We should be vigilant about the fact that we are speaking with them, we are collaborating, but we would be more open-hearted in terms of, we should not be working in silos, as Samayesh just put. Anish, coming to you, Anshita, talk to us on the lines of how do you maintain or how what can be the healthy way of building a partnership with your investors? Or I know. But
I don't have investors,
yeah,
but
that's right. But how do you? I mean, that's even
See,
more
I've
interesting.
spoken
That's
to
even
a-
more interesting because what expectations then you do hold? Yeah. So tell us about that.
See, I've spoken to a lot of investors. All of them are somewhat looking for one of two things, right? Either they want to come in as a strategic investor / partner and they want to be with you for a very, very long time, or they want to come, make some money and leave. And both are absolutely fine, but you need to know which one you're more interested in as a brand and then move forward with it. I think it does become hard to draw a line in that relationship because now you share what you've built with them, with somebody else. So you should really like them if you're going to share something with them, I would say. And don't just go because I mean, you should genuinely work with them because you like them, because you're probably going to be answering their phone call every single day for like a very long time.
It's always very good when founders come up that we share a very healthy partnership, very healthy relation with investors, though it can be very diplomatic to say it, but on a very generic and a good note, it's very heartening to see if founder and investor share a very good bond together. On my first panel, there was advice that's come up that startups should look at the debt capital instead of venture capital and keep equity to themselves because equity would be very dear to the founders. Yeah, Samayesh, would you like to add to it?
I think founders do hold their equity very dear, but investors do bring in a lot more than just strategy. Absolutely, investors do bring in a lot more than just the capital. And if you're actually raising invested purely for capital, I think you're doing yourself a disadvantage by raising just capital. Debt is always
Ashish would be a very good person to comment on this, as he advised and mentor a lot of young entrepreneurs and startups. I mean, the investors and other stakeholders who come in with your journey to partner in for your dream can bring a lot apart from the money.
Yeah. So I think one thing which we are missing here, the partnership with the government also. Because you see that every government and every PSU, the state government or central government and the public sector units, they are also partnering with the startups because they want to be the ahead of the market. Actually, they want the new product also. So they can be helpful in your supply with it, whatever the product you have. They can buy in a bulk manner. Actually, they can give you the platform for R&D and all. And other than that, whatever the questions he has asked, actually, this partnership with the investors, I think nobody can be better than the investor as your partner, actually, because investors are like your basically spouse. Because anybody who is coming with a lot of money and they are basically expecting that business should grow, because this is the only, I think, the partner in the entire ecosystem who want that you should grow actually. Once you will grow, then they'll get back their money actually. So investors are the best partner if you will take money with them and you'll just see that they are only for money, definitely it will not help. Because they can help you in many ways. Money that the money which they are giving, they can connect with the other the companies which are in the same business, or they can connect you with the larger partners, also larger player in their segment actually. They can bring many things at in the company actually, and they'll always be thinking that this company should grow actually. So nothing can be better than the investors, and they are coming without any commitment or without anything. They are looking for only growth of the organization. That's the one area. And then the third one, which I always advocate, the industry connect actually. Because you see that industry is working since last many years, and they have grown like anything actually. These people who have the gray hair on white hair, actually, they have done a lot. Actually, they were startups also sometime actually. But they have reached to a certain stage. Now they are looking the partnership with the startup, because I am working with the PhD Chamber of Commerce, CI, and other associations where a lot of industry people are there. They have a lot of money. They have the distribution network. They have brand also, and they can give many things actually. So whenever we are talking to these industry people, they are always looking that if any startup can be the part of their ecosystem where they can collaborate and they can give the money and the other things also. It can be the great partnerships, and because for partnership, what we need actually, we need partnership for growth, or we need partnership where we can cut the cost actually. Because you see that the sourcing of business, the acquisition of the customer and all, if the industry is coming with you, they have their distribution network, then your acquisition cost or your distribution network setup cost will be very, very less actually. So these things can help. I'll just give you the one example. One of my clients, they are into NBFC lending to the two-wheeler auto segment actually. What they did actually, this model, it works like that. Any two-wheeler lending company, they are tying up with the dealers across the country, with the dealers in the different brands, and they are giving passback or cutback to the dealers for giving the customers. They have completely disturbed the entire model actually. They have created a QR code, and they have partnered with their peers. Those are into the lending of the MSME lending or maybe housing loan and all. They are giving that QR code whenever you are onboarding the customer. Give this QR code. If they want to buy the two-wheeler, they will be directly onboarded by that two-wheeler NBFC. So the advantage is that their acquisition cost is almost zero actually. So this kind of partnership will always be helpful, and I believe all of you are startup and you must be doing already. Thank you.
If you want to do.
I think being through that journey of raising capital, it's very important to see that what an investor really brings in is a very different perspective. Yeah? And when you're running your business, at that time, you're running it with lots of execution and focus. And that perspective which investor is really bringing is a very broad experience of lot many things which he's really looking into. And the hardest thing to give anyone is your own capital, right? So I see it makes a lot more sense to have that perspective really sink in, have discussions, and choose the right investors who really come in. Money can be raised. Money is not a problem, but having the right guidance and use them as your mentors, it really unleashes you to a different scale.
That too at the right time.
That too at the right time.
Dinesh, do you see a scope or potential in your sector or any other sector where government can actually come in with, let's say, corporate partners, or let's say incubation centers or any other setup wherein you think that it can be more consolidated ecosystem altogether with all the sectors or segments playing together?
No, 100%. So we're very proud in saying that we're one of the most benefited from the central government and state government, right?
There's a lot of focus on EV right now.
Yeah, a lot of focus on EV, but us at Raptee specifically, we've got a ton of support, both monetary and otherwise, over the last 3 years, right? To the extent that we're in the middle, where again, I think probably not disclose that right now, but anyway, long story short, we've got a ton of support, but in an area like EVs, right? Standardization is key, right? For example, let me put it this way, right? Let's say Honda runs on Honda's petrol and Toyota runs on Toyota's petrol. It's not going to make sense, right? You cannot have different petrol stations or gas stations for different manufacturers. Then if electrification has to reach the masses, then there needs to be clear standardization on how chargers are going to work, who's going to be implementing this, and what standard does everybody get onto, so that you have USB-C for electric vehicles for that, in that context, right? So that's where I believe government has to really play a part, and this is for obvious reasons. Companies are going to promote their own standard to kind of help their own thing, but if it has to reach the masses, standardization needs to be standardization is important, and that needs to come in only from the government.
Also, it can also, on a next level, it will help to consolidate these segments and sub-segments into the specific sectors.
I think consolidation has to happen organically in my from my point of view. Consolidation has to happen from the customer's requirement. The customer really has to decide what is priority to them and what isn't. There, the government stepping in would just make it or rather delay the eventuality,
or enable it somewhere.
Sure.
Thank you, Durlabh. How can, in your sector, or how in your opinion, can government come in and play their role well in terms of bringing all of the stakeholders together and make collaboration partnerships more efficient?
सो डेयरी एज ए सेक्टर में तो गवर्नमेंट बहुत पहले से बहुत ही एक्टिव रही है. उनके अलग अलग पॉलिसीज़ हैं. इवन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की साइड में भी बहुत सारे प्रधानमंत्री की काफ़ी योजनाएं हैं जो कि हम जैसे एंटरप्रेन्योर बहुत ही सब्सिडाइज्ड रेट पे लोन ले सकते हैं. बट अगर मेरा पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस देखते हैं तो क्योंकि हम थोड़ा सा स्टार्टअप बिल्ड कर रहे हैं, ये कमर्शियल बिजनेस भी है, तो NDRI जो करनाल में है, जो कि नेशनल डेयरी रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट है, उनके साथ में वहाँ पे कि उनका एक गवर्नमेंट का इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर है जहाँ पे मोस्टली बहुत ही मिनिमम कॉस्ट लाइक 5,000 पर मंथ के बेसिस पे हम अपने डेयरी के प्रोडक्ट को वहाँ पे रिसर्च, वहाँ पे इनोवेशन करते हैं. मिलेट जैसे केस, मिलेट के ऊपर भी वो काम कर रहे हैं. तो हमारे 2 मेन वर्टिकल जैसे डेयरी एंड मिलेट, और अगर ये किसी और मतलब अगर इसकी कॉस्ट को अगर मैं लेता हूं कि अगर मैं एक बिजनेस होता और ये करता तो काफ़ी बड़ी कॉस्ट होती है किसी भी रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट की. तो गवर्नमेंट का काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल है. आई थिंक वो काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले कर भी रहे हैं, और डेयरी एज ए होल उनका फोकस हमेशा से रहा है. तो मतलब हम तो काफ़ी फॉर्चुनेट है दैट मींस.
Good to know. Before we close this panel, anybody would like to add or say something? Anything you wish to suggest, advice to young entrepreneurs?
That whenever you are doing any partnership, any collaboration, you should be very, very careful actually. That is very, very important. Like many times we are doing partnerships without seeing the future actually. So we should see who is your partner, what is their journey in the past also, and how they have supported, and whatever the partners you have, you should draw some kind of document what are the responsibility of the partners. Actually, many times we are carried away with the brand or the large organization, but many failures are also there. This is my suggestion to you.
So be more vigilant, do strategize better. Ish, you want to?
I would say the kind of role which government is playing now, I genuinely believe this decade is going to be for India.
Yeah, that's true.
And when we see from that perspective, specifically in insurance as a regulated sector, the kind of role play which government has done, we can just laud for it. From every part, regulator is helping in such a way that insurance would really get penetrated to tier 3, tier 4 cities of India, in real Bharat, the online penetration is right up front. And when we see the Bharat stack which is really coming in, when we see the kind of financial stacks which they're really putting in, they have opened up shops for all of us as founders to just leverage. When we talk to investors from other countries, they sometimes really feel India is at least 10 years ahead of the kind of stack which the government has now given as a part of offering to us. So this is like it for India.
That's
Collaboration
true,
is
and
going to help.
many people would agree to this. What he has right now said, Anshita. What do you expect? What demands? What expectations do you have in terms of how the whole startup ecosystem can help any young entrepreneur that's coming into any sector?
I think, especially because I come from a very niche segment, for us, it's better that more people join, that people come into this segment. So you have to get out there and talk to other startups, meet people, get in uncomfortable situations where, you feel very small in the room, but eventually you won't feel out of place, because basically every startup founder is probably going through the same thing or thinking the same thing as you. They've got the same amount of work when they go back. So, I feel like, but I would say in terms of collaborations and partnerships, keep a very close eye on your competitors. Don't avoid them just because you feel like they might be doing better. Definitely meet them, make friends, obviously draw that boundary, but I feel keep a close eye on them because they might be doing something you're not, and then you can implement it and probably do better.
Sorry.
No problem. On the lines of how you think that whole ecosystem and different stakeholders across this spectrum can actually bring in something new or some setup that can actually help younger enterprises to come in and play well.
Yeah, I think on this, my something that I've been talking about in a lot of places is I feel a lot of these entrepreneurs are concentrated in very small pockets. I think we need to not only, not even talking about tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? Even in metros, like I can personally feel a difference if I step into Bangalore, or for that matter Delhi or Bombay, which I don't get in Chennai, right? And it's not a factor of whether it's Chennai versus Bangalore or Chennai versus Delhi. I think each metro has its own part to play in this, but for that to happen, people need to go wider, and there needs to be more events, more networking sessions that needs to be done, like with PhD Chamber of Commerce, how they're kind of organizing, right? I think that's very important for that.
True. Durlabh, you would want to say something on this, because how can really matured consumer base and a non-mature one, let's say when it comes to tier 3 and beyond cities, can come together and work well, come up with solutions that can cater to a larger consumer base? What kind of a setup is required? What can be the possible expectations from customers and startups?
ओके, सो देखिए, इसमें अब मैं ऐसे बोलना चाहूँगा कि बरोसी को हम भारत में तो बनाते हैं और उस इकोसिस्टम को हेल्प करते हैं, बट हमारे कंज्यूमर जो हैं वो इंडिया में है, राइट? तो इन दोनों का ही हम ख्याल रखते हैं, क्योंकि एज ए ब्रांड मेरी जिम्मेदारी बनती है कि जब मैं भारत की कहानी सुनाऊं तो उस इकोसिस्टम में वापस से इन्वेस्ट करूं, उसको हेल्प करूं, राइट? चाहे वो फार्मर हो और या जितनी भी जो लेयर्स हैं बीच में, तो एज ए ब्रांड वी टेक केयर ऑफ दिस। वेयर एज अगर हम कस्टमर की बात करते हैं, क्योंकि ब्रांड पूरी स्पेक्ट्रम में मेरे को लगता है कि उसको कंज्यूमर होना बड़ा मुश्किल है, तो बहुत वेल डिफाइंड होना चाहिए कि आप बना किसके लिए रहे हैं। दो हम बनाते भारत में हैं पर बनाते इंडिया के लिए हैं, ये बहुत क्लियर है। एंड बट मेरे को लगता है कि इकोसिस्टम एज ए D2C बहुत ही अमेजिंगली डेवलप हो रहा है। D2C इकोसिस्टम ने सालों सैकड़ों सालों के जो कन्वेंशनल सिस्टम था उसको ब्रेक करते हुए हम डायरेक्ट कंज्यूमर्स के पास पहुंचे हैं, एंड पूरे बहुत ही पार्टनरशिप और कोलैबोरेटिव की अप्रोच की तरह ये हुआ है। अपना अपना हिस्सा, ब्रांड अपना हिस्सा, जैसे ब्रांड एंड प्रोडक्ट के ऊपर कंट्रोल रखता है, लॉजिस्टिक्स कंपनियां लॉजिस्टिक्स के ऊपर कंट्रोल रखती हैं, टेक जो उसमें इन्वॉल्व है, जैसे शॉपिफाई और मैनी डिफरेंट प्लेटफॉर्म्स वो उसके साथ टुगेदर आते हैं। तो ये पूरा ही इकोसिस्टम जो है बड़ा ही कोलैबोरेटिव है, बहुत ही पार्टनरशिप है, और ये अमेजिंगली एक नया पूरा इकोसिस्टम खड़ा हुआ है जो कि एक बहुत ही पुराने कन्वेंशनल सेटअप को चैलेंज भी कर रहा है।
Good to know. Good to know. Ish, tell us how well do you rate yourself or InsuranceDekho in terms of your collaborations, partnerships that are working well on a scale of 1 to 10?
As a founder, I'll always raise 10.
That's biased. That's not true.
See, apart from that,
Honestly, tell me.
honestly, from a perspective, if you really see what InsuranceDekho is as of now really doing, it's primarily into distribution. Yeah. When you look into distribution of a particular product, we have integrations done with at least 46 insurers, right? And when you're looking for one single request, which is really coming from the end customer, you are hitting the insurers, 46 insurers at the back end, finding out the right solution, offering that on a single platform from where an end customer is able to choose the best policy which he really wants to buy. Without collaboration, nothing can happen. And it is, I'm talking about only one journey. Talk about the real person who is actually offering this particular solution to someone who is in, let's say, Begusarai. वहाँ पे, I'll use Hindi for that. वहाँ पे कोई ये नहीं सोचेगा कि ये एक B2C प्लेटफॉर्म पे है, मेरे पास फोन पे दिख गया। बेगूसराय में सिर्फ LIC पता है और उनको मालूम है कि ये जो मेरे चाचा जी के दोस्त हैं यही मेरे को हेल्प करेंगे कल को जब इंश्योरेंस चाहिए। अब जो चाचा जी के दोस्त हैं उनको ऑनबोर्ड करने के लिए उनके फोन पे एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म होना जिसके बेसिस पे आपको वो राइट प्रोडक्ट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ रिक्वेस्ट मिल जाए, बिना कोलैबोरेशन के तो हो ही नहीं सकता।
Interesting. Samayesh, how can you like narrow this gap between the customers in Bharat and India? For a young entrepreneur, how difficult is it? I mean, there are entrepreneurs and enterprises who are mature enough, let's say 8 years, 7 years, 10 years. But for a younger startups who are like aiming towards a particular target audience, but he or she will eventually would scale up and go beyond a particular set of target audience. How easy, how difficult is this process?
I'm assuming this is about narrowing down your target between two different target audiences. Got it. So I think it's very important to have both those target audiences operated very differently and to target your niche very, very specifically, at least in your early days. If you're going to try to bridge that gap between Bharat and India and then target a larger customer set, unfortunately, let's say conversions for you will start dropping. And I'm talking about something very, the more you narrow down your customer set initially, the better off you are. I mean, for us, we are very sure about the customer set that we want to target. We weren't so sure about it 2 years back, and I think that was a shortcoming we keep addressing with every passing year possibly.
So it's not at all advisable to address or entertain a wider audience, especially in your younger age of the company, of the startups. It's always advisable to
you'd be surprised,
keep focused.
It is so important to be focused, and it's very, very easy to be distracted, especially in this day and age of D2C. You can target anybody and everybody, and anybody and everybody is going to come back at you and have a comment or feel that they're entitled to an opinion. Even more when your competitor is doing something. So I think competitors don't impact your mind as much as your audience does. So if you're not targeting the right people, sometimes, for example, I'm just talking about a very specific incident. Yesterday, we had a post go out on our Instagram, and this is one comment that I have consciously not removed from there. A customer came out there to our Instagram and commented on it. Your graphic designers done a great job, and you must tip them 10 rupees for the great job they've done. I've not removed that comment because I want to see it every day when I go back to my Instagram and remember that someone targeted a really wrong audience, someone targeted and did something really wrong, and we haven't been able to address the right consumer set. So I've not deleted that, only to remind myself not to be impacted by some of these people.
Different way to do things. Thank you so much. If anybody would like to say anything, please.
मेरे को लगता है ये जो गैप जो भारत और इंडिया का है वो ये है कि ये अपने आप में दो अलग अलग कंट्री हैं और ये गैप अलग अलग सेक्टर में अगर आपने देखा है तो ब्रिज हुआ है बट टाइम लगता है। बट उस जिस सेक्टर ने इसको ब्रिज किया उसकी एक बहुत ही इंक्लूसिव और होलिस्टिक ग्रोथ रही है। ऑटो में होते हुए हमने देखा है, इंश्योरेंस में ये हो रहा है, राइट। तो आई एम श्योर D2C अभी थोड़ा सा इंडियन फिनोमिना है, बट जैसे जैसे ये इकोसिस्टम बहुत और स्ट्रांग होता जाएगा, ये गैप जो है कम होता जाएगा, हम लोग और ज्यादा लोगों तक पहुंच पाएंगे, आई थिंक।
True. I totally agree with all of the pointers that has come up, and I'm sure that this decade actually belongs to India, and more so for young entrepreneurs. And we will continue to witness this growth to, let's say, multiplied by 10, 100, thousands. I'm not too sure. Thank you so much for all the panelists to joining us. Thank you. Thank you.